Hey guys, welcome to StudyIQ. My name is Prashant Dhawan and in this video we are going to analyze the Yojana magazine. As you can see, this is the November 2017 edition of the Yojana magazine and this is the theme of this month's magazine: Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, MSMEs. You must have heard a lot about them in the news, so we will analyze what are these, why an enterprise should be registered as a micro, small or a medium enterprise, what are the benefits, what are the challenges that these enterprises face, how can they help in the development of the country. A lot of things shall be discussed. So without further ado, let's start this video now, shall we? But before that, let me tell you about StudyIQ's pen drive and tablet courses that are available for various competitive exams like SSC exam, bank exams, UPSC exams as well. We even have a test series for UPSC aspirants both in English and Hindi language. Other than that, we have courses for CLAT, DSSB, various courses that you can find on StudyIQ.com. You can go here and you will find a chat option that is available which will help you in your purchase, and you can also call these numbers that you see on the screen. You can also follow me on Facebook if you want to, prashant.dhawan.79. Just Google this and my profile will pop up and there you can follow me. I share a lot of quotes and articles there. So what is the definition of MSME? Suppose if I own an enterprise and we manufacture pens, cheap pens, and I have 50 to 100 people working under me. So I own a business. Now, the government of India has given me an option where I can register myself as an MSME. So my enterprise can be categorized as either a micro, small or a medium enterprise. Why I will do that, what will be the perks of doing that, we shall discuss later. So now since I have an enterprise and we manufacture something, so this is the criteria through which my company, my enterprise shall be given a tag of either a micro, small or a medium enterprise. Let's read. Now, a micro enterprise is an enterprise where the investment in plant and the machinery where it does not exceed 25 lakh. So suppose in my enterprise, if the total investment that I have made in the plant or the machinery that goes in the manufacturing of all those pens, if it is around 20 lakh, then I don't even count as a micro enterprise, alright. But if it exceeds 25 lakh or if it is 25 lakh, then I shall be tagged as a micro enterprise. Similarly, if my enterprise has investment in plant and machinery more than 25 lakh, but it does not exceed 5 crore, then I shall be tagged as a small enterprise. Now, in order to be tagged as a medium enterprise, my enterprise should have investment in plant and machinery of more than 5 crore, but it should not exceed 10 crore. If the investment in the plant and machinery of my enterprise, if it exceeds 10 crore rupees, then I shall neither be counted as a micro, small or a medium enterprise. All the benefits that the government provides under the MSME schemes shall not be given to me. I shall not be eligible for that. Now, we have understood how a manufacturing enterprise, an enterprise that produces something tangible, how are they categorized under the MSME Act. Now let's read about the service sector. Now, before talking about the service sector, let me tell you about an important point. In case of the above enterprises, investment in plant and machinery is the original cost excluding land and building and the items, some items that are specified by the Ministry of Small Scale Industries. So when we are calculating the total cost that will be used to categorize an enterprise as a small or a micro or a medium enterprise, then we shall exclude the land and the building. Only the plant and the machinery shall be calculated or taken into consideration. Now let's talk about the enterprises that are engaged in the service sector. Now enterprises engaged in providing or rendering of services and whose investment in equipment, again the original cost excluding land and building and furniture, fittings and other items that are not directly related to the service rendered. The micro enterprise is an enterprise where the investment in equipment does not exceed 10 lakh rupees. So you can see it is different from the manufacturing sector enterprise. And the small enterprise is an enterprise where the investment of the equipment is more than 10 lakh rupees, but it does not exceed 2 crore rupees. Similarly, Similarly, a medium enterprise is an enterprise where the investment in equipment is more than 2 crore rupees but does not exceed 5 crore rupees. If it does exceed 5 crore rupees, then it cannot be categorized, it cannot be tagged as a small, medium or a micro enterprise. So my enterprise has been registered as an MSME. I know whether my enterprise is micro, small or medium, but what will I get in return? Well, after registration, any enterprise becomes qualified to reap the benefits offered under the MSMED Act, where both the central government and the state government provides many benefits. Now, let me just show you a slide. Now, some of the benefits from central government include easy sanction of bank loans, priority sector lending, lower rates of interest, excise exemption, exemption under direct tax laws, statutory support such as reservation and the interest on the Delayed Payments Act. The state government and the union territories have also compiled their own packages of facilities and incentives for MSMEs. Some of the benefits provided by the state governments for MSMEs include development of specialized industrial estates, tax subsidies, power tariff subsidies, capital investment subsidies and other support. So both the center and the state, whether under law or otherwise, target their incentives and support packages generally to units registered with them. Banking laws, excise laws and direct tax laws have incorporated the word MSMEs in their exemption notification. Therefore, the registration certificate issued by the registering authority is seen as a proof of being MSME and is required to avail the benefit sanctioned for the MSMEs. Now, this is what we read on paper, this is what the government tells us, but what's the ground reality? We shall discuss that through a very good article from the Hindu newspaper. Now again, we are deviating a bit from Yojana, but our main objective of course is to acquire knowledge, right? So there is a very interesting small article from the Hindu. We shall discuss that, and that will let us know whether all these initiatives, all these schemes by the government, is it really benefiting the MSMEs or not? Now in the Yojana magazine, there is an entire article on accessing finance challenges for the MSMEs. Basically, the article is about whether the MSMEs are getting adequate funding, whether they are getting the loans, because suppose if I own an enterprise, I am manufacturing my little cheap pens and I have 50 to 100 people working under me. But I have big dreams. I want to expand. I want to have a bigger company. I want to move from being a micro enterprise to perhaps a smaller enterprise, and one day even a medium enterprise. I want to contribute to the nation building process. But in order to do that, I need funding. I simply cannot expand with my profits now. That is correct. But this beautiful article, it tells us how the credit gap of 56% is hurting our MSME sector. Now this is from the Hindu article, and it has very similar information that the Yojana article has. I shall read some parts of the Yojana articles after discussing the Hindu article. Now, there is a credit gap of 56% in the MSME, micro, small and medium enterprises financial sector in India. That means that while there is a demand of 2,80,328 crore rupees, the supply of finance stands at an abysmal 1,38,948 crore rupees. That's almost 1/3 of the demand. Now this was revealed by a study that was conducted by a US-based entrepreneurial finance lab, EFL. So that means a lot of MSMEs in India will not be able to achieve their dreams, will not be able to expand, will not be able to provide more jobs for our job-starved country. Other than that, the report by EFL also revealed that in India, 92% of MSMEs lack access to formal sector finance. Now we talk a lot about the ease of doing business. Recently, India jumped 30 places in the ease of doing business ranking. We were on 130 earlier, now we are on 110. And the government likes to thump its chest because of that, and it should. It's a great achievement. But we should observe that the reason why we are behind 100 countries when it comes to ease of doing business is that our MSMEs, our micro, small and medium enterprises, they lack access to formal sector finance. 92% of them. Alright, now this was said by EFL's Asia head, Emily, whatever her name is. So her statement was, one of the largest barriers to access finance in India is lack of detailed application credit histories. Now a lot of MSMEs are quite new. They don't really have a detailed history, and banks like to play it safe. They do not want to lend to MSMEs who are very new, who don't have a credit history, because already a lot of our public sector banks are suffering from non-performing assets. Recently, the government also introduced the 2,11,000 crore rupee bailout package for all the banks so that they can correct their balance sheets. Of course, that will help, but we should also remember that in India, 92% of the MSMEs will continue to lack access to formal sector finance because they just don't have the credit histories, or they don't have other documented metrics or credit worthiness, quote unquote credit worthiness, however you gauge it. So in a world increasingly dominated by data, lenders who leverage new non-traditional quantifiable measures to assess applicants will be most successful. So that means only 8% of the top MSMEs who have good credit history, who have all their documents, and they have quote unquote credit worthiness, only they get all the loans, and the rest of them are loan starved. That is why our MSMEs are not growing as fast as they can. Now let's read a bit about the supply side constraints from the Yojana magazine. According to the Yojana magazine, the Indian banking system consists of 27 public sector banks, 26 private sector banks, and 46 foreign banks, and of course 56 regional rural banks, and around 1574 urban cooperative banks, and around 1 lakh, well, the exact number is 93,913 rural cooperative banks. A lot of banks we have in India. Now, in addition to the cooperative credit institution, the public sector banks control more than 70% of the banking assets under direct control of the government. The governments in India have long been accused that they corner the deposits in the bank through government securities and bonds to make up for budget deficits, finance political schemes, and influence flow of funds to projects promoters of their own liking. That is why MSMEs simply don't get enough funds, and that is why the banks do not have enough funds available for the MSMEs. So what can be the solution here? First of all, the government must provide our banks with adequate funds that are specifically built for our MSME sector. Then we should also have a more liberalized policy when it comes to giving out loans to the MSME sector. We must take some more risk. Our banks should also take more risk. They should be giving loans to new MSMEs who don't really have quote unquote credit worthiness. This of course will require more scrutiny. They will have to study what the MSME is all about, how are they conducting their business, whether they have a profitable future or not. That can be done, but rather than just denying them access to formal finance sector, I think this is a more correct way to conduct things. Now let's discuss this article, Role of MSMEs in New India. It's a very interesting article, has a lot of things, has I think all the knowledge that at least 2 or 3 articles have in Yojana magazine, a really good article. So first of all, why are MSMEs important for a country? For a country to grow, the government should actively promote business enterprises. Alright. Among business enterprises, the micro, small and medium enterprises deserve special attention. Though MSMEs are small investment enterprises, but their contribution to the Indian economy is quite significant. The micro, small and medium enterprises occupy a strategic importance in terms of output. About 45% of manufacturing output, that means our exports, about 40% of the total exports of our country, and employment of about 69 million people in over 29 million units throughout our country. Based on the Planning Commission report of 2015, the updated statistics are quite different now. It is believed that our MSME sector provides employment to around 1 crore 20 lakh people. If you look at the worldwide trends, in Japan, the MSME sector employs 70% of the wage earners and contributes around 55% of the value added. And in Thailand, the MSMEs employ 60.7% of the population while contributing 38% of the GDP. China, our famous example to compare, the MSMEs contribute to around 68% of the total exports, and in the last 20 years created more MSMEs than the total number of MSMEs in Europe and US combined. That is considered a very important factor of China's growth. And we should also note that in China, the criteria to define or the criteria to tag an enterprise as a small, medium or large enterprise is quite different. In China, the industrial SME, the small, medium enterprise, is defined as having around 2,000 employees, while small businesses have less than 300 employees, and a medium-sized business has to employ between 300 to 2,000 employees. So they focus more on the employment aspect rather than the value of their assets. Now in India, capital is scarce. As you know, we don't really have as much as capital as China does, but there is abundant labor. We have a huge population. That is why we have abundant labor. The MSMEs are thought to have lower capital output and capital labor ratios than the large scale industries, and therefore better serve growth and employment objectives. The MSME sector in India has grown significantly since 1960s with the annual average growth of around 4.4%, and this has increased to 10% in the last 10 years. Now, not only do MSMEs generate the highest employment per capita investment, they also go a long way in checking rural-urban migration by providing people living in isolated areas with a sustainable source of employment, so that they don't really have to migrate to the urban places. Now let's read a little more about what MSMEs can do for a new India in this article. Now the significance of MSMEs is attributable to their caliber for employment generation, low capital and technology requirement. Alright. Now they are also quite important for promotion of industrial development in rural areas, use of traditional or inherited skills, use of local resources, mobilization of resources and exportability of products. Now, according to the estimates of the Ministry of MSME Government of India, the sector generates around 100 million jobs through the 46 million units situated throughout the geographical expanse of the country. And they also contribute to the GDP of our country a lot, as we discussed earlier. Now, it is easy to comprehend the salience of the role they play in social and economic reconstruction of India. Now, I can understand economic aspects of MSME, but what are the social aspects? How do they help our social reforming? Well, in MSMEs, the role of women in the workforce is greatly enhanced compared to the role they have in our agriculture force. We shall discuss that in an article cut out in the next slide. So besides the wide range of services provided by the sector is engaged in manufacturing of over 6,000 products ranging from traditional to high-tech items. Now while discussing this, let's just evaluate the reservation policy in MSME as well. No, there is no job reservation policy in MSME. Look, the policy of reserving products for exclusive manufacture of small scale sector was started in 1967 with 47 items. Now the list of reserved items rose to 873 in 1984. Alright, so the government, what it did was, it realized that in order to promote MSMEs from the giant corporations that already exist, they must reserve some items only for the MSMEs. Alright, only they will produce them, so that of course they can get some business out of it. So the number of items of the reserved list for SSI sector was brought down to 836 in 1989. Alright, it was reduced a bit in 1989, and then the pace of reforms accelerated In 1991, average tariff rates have been steadily lowered, quantitative restrictions have been removed, and the domestic investment policies have been liberalized. Over the times, the number of items reserved in the reserved list for MSMEs has also been reduced, and now it stands at 605 in 2005. With liberalization, since all the items on the reserved list can now be imported, MSMEs face competition from foreign enterprises, even though large-scale industries in India cannot produce these products. So you can see there is quite a paradox for the government that our MSMEs are not able to compete with the foreign companies who export their products to India, and only the MSMEs can produce those products. The large-scale companies, they are not allowed to produce them. All right, they have restriction on them. All right. So what can we do to make sure that our MSMEs are competitive enough to take on these foreign companies on their own land, on our own land, of course? Let's discuss that. Let's discuss all the initiatives that the government has taken to improve competitiveness in the MSME sector so that they can compete with the foreign companies while they do have the luxury of some items being reserved only for them. Now, a lot of things depend on our MSME sector. They are supposed to provide employment. They are supposed to fight the foreign companies, not like literally fight them. They are supposed to beat them in competition. They are supposed to provide better products at cheaper rates so that India can export them as well. They have a lot of responsibilities on their shoulders. So it's not that they are working alone. The government is helping them. Other than giving them the reservation for a lot of items, the government has a lot of initiatives where MSME sectors are given a lot of training. The owners of the MSME sectors are given a lot of training. They are given training in terms of design, marketing, how to manage their enterprise, and a lot of other things. More importantly, the most important thing is, of course, the credit facility and the technology upgradation. So let's discuss all that. Now, first of all, let's talk about the National Manufacturing Competitiveness Program, the NMPC. This program is an umbrella program. Under this umbrella program, there are various schemes by the government of India for the MSMEs. All right. Now, this program aims to develop global competitiveness among the Indian MSMEs. Why do we want to develop global competitiveness, you might ask? Because we are supposed to compete with global companies. We are supposed to compete with foreign companies. Now, how are we supposed to do that? By improving their processes, designs, technology, and giving them adequate market access. Not adequate, just giving them market access. The program envisages a substantial investment towards enhancing the entire value chain of the MSME sector. All the 10 components of the NMCP have already been operationalized and are likely to spur innovation and growth in the MSME sector. Now, these 10 components, they include the quality management system. We need to make sure that the products that are manufactured by our MSME sector, they are quality products. Since they are supposed to compete in the global market as well, they will be exported. The quality technology tools, well, you know what, when we talk about quality, we should not only mention the foreign market or the global market. As I told you earlier, in India, they are facing a lot of competition from foreign companies as well. So quality is going to be an issue regardless whether it is India or abroad. So there are also design clinics for the MSMEs under the NMCP. And they are also helped in building awareness about IPRs. Now, this is the intellectual property rights. This is very important. We shall discuss this later on. I just had to scroll down a bit. So other than that, they are also provided support for entrepreneurial and managerial development, marketing support, assistance to MSMEs, setting up a new mini tool room, lean manufacturing competitiveness scheme. This is quite interesting. The lean manufacturing competitiveness scheme, quite an interesting name. So these components seek to introduce the best elements of industrial competitiveness in the MSME sector, which has often been unable to afford such practices and techniques. Now, about the lean manufacturing competitiveness scheme of the MSMEs. Now, under the lean manufacturing program, MSMEs are assisted in reducing their manufacturing costs through proper personnel management. Remember that we are not talking about personal management, we are talking about the people who work in the MSME, the personnel that work there. All right. They are also guided to better space utilization in the office, scientific inventory management, improved process flows, because the foreign companies, they already have this. All right, so we need to make sure that our Desi MSMEs need to have this as well. They are also guided in reducing the engineering time and so on. And the lean manufacturing competitiveness scheme also brings improvement in the quality of products and lowers costs, which are essential for competing in national and international markets. Now, the broad activities planned under the LMP include total product management. Now, they have a lot of things that come under the LMP scheme. Over here, I would like to mention that although it sounds great that the government is doing so much for our for our MSMEs, but just like the credit facility that is provided to MSMEs that we discussed earlier, that 92% of our MSMEs aren't even getting adequate funds from the banks because they don't really have quote-unquote credit worthiness. Similarly, a lot of MSMEs are left out in this lean manufacturing competitiveness schemes, because a lot of MSMEs in India, and rather no, I should say a lot of enterprises in India aren't even registered as MSMEs. All right, this was I will discuss that later on. Why is it the case and what the government is trying to do to change this? But this is the tragedy of our country. You know, the government wants to help them out. The government has a lot of initiatives, yet they aren't just coming forward, and they have good reasons to do so as well. Anyway, so then we have the promotion of information and communication tools. Nothing all that much over here. You can pause the screen to read it if you want, but it isn't something that will help you. Then, of course, this is quite important: the technology upgradation and quality certification support to MSMEs. The objective of this component of NMCP is to sensitize the MSMEs about the benefits that could accrue from the usage of energy efficient technologies, reduction in emissions of greenhouse gases. Now, this is where the environment aspect comes in. Since India will witness a huge mushrooming of MSMEs in the coming years, we will have so many MSMEs in our country. We need to make sure that they are producing their manufacturing goods while taking care of the environment. So other than that, they are also helped in improving the acceptance of their products by product quality certification, thereby making them globally competitive. And the major activities planned under this component include capacity building for MSME clusters for energy efficiency, clean development interventions, implementation of energy efficient technologies in MSME sector, setting up of carbon credit aggregation centers, and encourage MSMEs to acquire product certification licenses from national and international bodies. Now, as we discussed earlier, building awareness on intellectual property rights for micro, small and medium enterprises is a very important component of NMCP scheme. Now, under NMCP, the component for building awareness on intellectual property rights for micro, small and medium enterprises has been launched to enable Indian MSMEs to attain global leadership position and to empower them in using effectively the tools for intellectual property rights of innovative projects. The main features of this scheme are awareness, sensitization programs of IPR, pilot studies for selected clusters group of industries, interactive seminars, workshops, specialized training, assistance for grant of patent, GI registration, setting up of IP facilitation center, and interaction with international agencies. These initiatives are being taken by public-private partnership mode. All right, so what do we even mean by intellectual property to begin with? Suppose if I own an enterprise, which I don't, but let's suppose I do, and we manufacture pens, and we have designed a new kind of pen that is very efficient and it's quite innovative and people love it. So we decide to patent that design. Now again, suppose if I don't even know that I'm supposed to patent that design so that I have the intellectual property rights of that particular product. Some other people will start making that exact product and they will eat into my market. All right, I won't be able to make the profit that I'm supposed to make because I just didn't really have the intellectual property rights of that particular design of pen. Similarly, a lot of MSMEs, what they tend to do is they sometimes copy the design of some other product that is being sold in South America or perhaps in East Asia, and they think nothing will happen, and eventually when they get sued because of that, they have to suffer a lot of losses, and it basically hampers the growth of the micro, small, medium enterprises sector. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that the business owners in India that own the MSMEs, they need to be aware about the intellectual property rights. They need to know how they can use the intellectual property rights code, what are the laws, and in order to do that, a lot of things will be done. Like as I said earlier, awareness programs on IPR, pilot studies, and there will be interactive seminars and workshops where they will be educated about the intellectual property rights about of India and around the world as well. And of course, as I said earlier, interaction with international agencies so that they know if some company in a different country is using the same design that they are using and they don't have the intellectual property rights of that, how can they stop that? So there are a lot of things that they need to know about intellectual property rights, and it's a very important component of the micro, small, medium enterprise sector. Now let's read about the Udyog Aadhaar Memorandum. This is a very important part because so far we have understood a lot about the MSMEs in India. We have understood how they are given credit in India, if they are given at all. Most of them aren't, of course. How the government is trying to help them out, why the government is trying to help the MSME sector through various schemes, and how important MSME sector is in the growth and development of our country. We have discussed all that. Now, a very important part of it is the Udyog Aadhaar Memorandum, because here we will understand how many MSMEs in India, how many enterprises in India are actually registered under MSME. So, as you probably know by now that the micro, small and medium enterprises need to be registered under MSME for to enjoy the benefits provided under various government schemes to the industry, of course. A large chunk of enterprises in India are simply not registered due to the due to the difficult paperwork involved in the process. Therefore, they can't tap the government schemes that have been tailor-made for them. Now that's quite a tragedy, isn't it? The KV Kamath panel on financing MSME sector had recommended that the registration should be universalized. The concept of Udyog Aadhaar and ease of registration have thus originated to ensure a wider coverage of MSMEs to avail the benefits under various schemes of central and the state governments. Udyog Aadhaar Memorandum is one-page registration form for micro, small and medium enterprises to get registered under MSMEs. So Udyog Aadhaar registration is a replacement of the previous system that was EM1 and EM2 forms. Alright. So now we have just a one-page form so that the owners of MSMEs, the enterprises, they don't find it difficult to register and they can avail all the benefits that the government is ready to provide them. So the Udyog Aadhaar registration is replacement of the previous system where a lot of documents and details were needed. If it constitutes it means the new Udyog Aadhaar Memorandum, it constitutes a self-declaration format under which the MSME will self-certify its existence. That's easier for them, isn't it? And other minimum information is required. The salient features of the Udyog Aadhaar Memorandum are as under: single page online registration, mobile friendly, self-certification, file more than one Udyog Aadhaar, no documents are required, no fees for Udyog Aadhaar. Alright, so all these benefits are provided to the MSMEs. The Ministry of MSME has set up the infrastructure, that is Udyog Aadhaar portal, and you can see here is the link of it, udyogadhar.gov.in, for online filing of Udyog Aadhaar memorandum. And this can be done by the enterprises located anywhere in the country. Alright, so a lot of times enterprises that are located in the northeast region, they don't really have access to any offices where they can register themselves as a MSME, so that has been sorted out through this online portal as well. The UA portal is also accessible on mobile devices, and so that's another boon. Udyog Aadhaar registration has enabled the unit's enterprises to seek information and apply online about various services provided by all ministries and departments simply by using Udyog Aadhaar number. Alright, the new system of Udyog Aadhaar offers a single system of registration. The system is capable of delivering assured ease of doing business, since 92% of the country's adult population is already registered under Aadhaar. So since they have Aadhaar, 92% of them do, so most of them will find it quite easy to register. This initiative of maintaining the data of MSMEs with the Ministry of MSMEs is likely to save cost in the long run, since states and union territories would no longer be requiring maintaining the same time. Alright, so the center will be sharing the data with the states and the union territories, so they don't need to spend extra money to keep all that data and do all the research. Alright, so the government has received very good response with simplified Aadhaar based registration system for the MSME sector. So far, this many enterprises have already registered themselves with the Udyog Aadhaar number as of 10th October 2017, and it is expected that Udyog Aadhaar shall unlock the potential of MSMEs besides improving our international ranking and ease of doing business. Now, ZED was mentioned in the article earlier. What does ZED stand for, and in the context of MSME, let's understand this. ZED stands for A, zero defect and zero effect. So the government wants that whatever are MSMEs, whatever they manufacture, it should have zero defect. That means the quality should be super, made in India, should have some weight to it, it should have some value to it. And secondly, zero effect, that means it should have zero effect on the environment. It should not pollute the environment. Alright, so it also involves ZED assessment for the certificate as to develop an ecosystem for zero defect manufacturing in MSMEs, promote adaptation of quality tool system and energy efficient manufacturing, enable MSMEs for manufacturing of quality products, encourage MSMEs to constantly upgrade their quality standards in products and processes, and drive manufacturing with adoption of zero defect production processes and without impacting the environment, and also support the Make in India campaign by improving their quality overall, and also develop professionals in the area of ZED manufacturing and certification. So basically, once a MSME is producing with zero defect and zero effect, it will get a certification from the government that will help it in the global market as well as the domestic market. Other than that, I would also like to mention that Quality Council of India has been appointed as the National Monitoring and Implementation Unit for implementation of ZED. Alright, so you must remember Quality Council of India. They might ask this in the exam as well. So this is the end of our video, the Yojana November 2017 analysis. Hopefully you like this video and you will like it and share it on Facebook or WhatsApp or wherever you can. And I will see you next month with the December edition of the Yojana magazine.